Hello, hello, hello. Howdy, howdy, ho, ho. How are you doing, good people? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I'm Brandon Sylvia, coming to you today with a topic that just kind of hit my brain. And I was like, Loon, do you think this is there any juice out of this? Is there anything we can make out of this? And the topic idea is why do you finish video games? And Luma's like, dude, actually, I think there's something there. So, Luna, I appreciate you for joining me here today, and I'm really curious because like we didn't prepare a ton for this topic. Um, I'm really curious just to see which direction this goes. Sometimes I like going into videos totally unprepared and just shooting from the hip, seeing where it goes.
Yep, no, for sure. Um, it's definitely a topic that, everyone can relate to. We're all gamers here. So we'll
Yeah.
all have some form of opinion and stuff like that. And yeah, it's also interesting because we play similar games, but we play them for different reasons as well. So it'd be interesting to pluck your points and, like you said, pluck my points.
Right. Well, I guess let's start there at the very, very top. Um, and I think we all do this, but I'm just gonna throw out the blanket question, real simple, softball here. Do you finish games that you're not enjoying? How often do you do that? Is there any reason for your doing that? What's the method to the madness?
Absolutely for sure. The first one that springs to mind is Hellblade 2 this year.
Yep,
I won't
same.
lie though. I will kind of defend myself a little bit here. I don't think I would have finished it if we didn't do these talks. I think I would have done the exact same thing as I did with the first game and just put it down. But I wanted to kind of finish it and be like, for one, like surely it's got to be an improvement. And for me, it just wasn't. And it was also just like I want to know your opinion on like the whole
Yeah.
picture and see if I'm getting like anything wrong and stuff like that. So
Yeah. It
yeah,
it's funny, like Hellblade 2 is such a strange, and I relate to that example because it's so short. You know what I mean? And I was thinking back to games this year that I played through and finished that I didn't really enjoy, and Hellblade 2 was at the top of that list. And then Open Roads was another one where I was like, man, this is not good, but it was 3 hours. And so I think that's kind of another thing where if a game is on the shorter side, even if I'm not really enjoying it, I'll typically, especially, and we'll get to this a bit later, but especially like story driven games, I'll usually power through them just to see if something compelling happens in the plot.
yeah, because they're so short, you hope that it can kind of redeem itself at the end, like have
Exactly.
some interesting twist. So I can see that. Yeah,
Well,
I definitely don't play as many story games as you like that though, with the narrative things. I will say that.
do you have any other examples off the top of your head? Because I actually did jot down a couple here of games that I finished this year that I didn't really enjoy. And I was like, so I'll just shout them out. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Harold
Mhm,
Halibut,
mhm.
Hellblade 2, Deadly Premonition, and Open Roads. And when I was jotting them down, I was trying to look at each one and go, what made me finish each of these games? And I think it's a different thing for all of them. Um, Suicide Squad, I literally just finished that game because of the presentation. Like the presentation of that game is so, so good. The cutscene quality is so good. And it it's crazy to play through a game that I'm really disliking in terms of the gameplay, just the so formulaic gameplay structure of Suicide Squad only because of the presentation. Harold Halibut, I really liked the world a lot, but nothing else about the game was compelling to me whatsoever from a storytelling standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, but I loved the world and I really liked being in the world. Hellblade 2, like we talked about, and Open Roads, those kind of go together. Really short, and I I thought the end of Hellblade 1 was so strong that I was hoping that Hellblade 2 would come together by the end, but it really didn't. Deadly Premonition is one that I did enjoy, but it was just so janky, so janky that many times throughout it, I was like, I should probably put this thing down. But it was one that like it was a weird one where as bad as it was at times, I really couldn't put it down. So those are just a few quick examples there. Um, and I don't mean to throw that at you on the fly there because I know that's a that that takes a little bit of digging to find a few games that
I've got an entire list on my phone of where I keep everything that I've
perfect.
finished, so it's a little bit easier. But it is difficult for me because I think I do have a tendency to just stomp. If I'm really, really not enjoying it, I do usually put it down. But there are a few. One that like instantly springs to mind was Clive Barker's Jericho. You ever heard of
Oh
that game?
wow, yep. The horror game for PS3.
Just bad.
Yeah.
Just really, really bad from start to like awful design and stuff. But the thing is, the presentation, it's like what you said. It was like this kind of looks cool and it has a cool theme. Surely they go somewhere with this. Because I'm fairly certain Clive Barker's the guy that did Hellraiser, right? The
I
director.
think so. I'm not all that familiar with the film world.
So you hope that he can pull some of that in. Like if he was any bit of a part of the project, you're hoping that he can kind of redeem it and stuff like that. Um, but a lot of the time, I won't lie as well, I find myself I don't usually jump in straight away on like bad get like if they get a bad reception, I'll usually avoid them, but I'll like revisit them down the road where there's no it's not full price. I didn't buy this day one. There was no hype and stuff like that. And something that springs to mind of that is like Aliens Colonial Marines. Like that was panned as being just god awful. Being a massive fan of Aliens, I'm sure that helps with the series, but it's just a fairly okay shooter. Picking it up much further down the road where you have no expectations and stuff. I think that's the big difference is when people come in with these, monumental expectations that it has to be the greatest thing that this series has ever put out. And then they get it in their hands and they're like, it's just more licensed garbage. It must have stung, and I get that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's to me the thing about and you actually mentioned it a second ago, so we can go ahead and kind of pivot in that direction of pricing of getting games cheaper and the commitment there or lack thereof. I If I buy a game for 60, $70, I'm almost always going to finish it. And the lower that price goes, like if I buy it for $40, I'm less likely to finish it than if I bought it for 50. If I bought it for 30, less likely than, if I bought it for 40. And it just keeps on going down. And so how do you fit into that? Do you feel that kind of weird pressure where if you bought a game for full price, even if you're not really liking it, you're like, oh, I gotta get my money's worth out of this thing.
Um, Let me just quickly look at when it came out because I do and I don't. And I say that because obviously I was very hyped for Lords of the Fallen dropping,
Hmm.
right? Purchased it day one. That came out in 2023, October. It was only like 2 months ago that I finished it, 3 months ago. So I don't think I fall in the trap of if I buy it day one, I have to finish it like quickly. Like if I can see that it's just not, it just wasn't good, it wasn't ready. Because I did the same thing for like Wrath of the Righteous. It was broken. So I'm not going to push through something that's broken because I know that I'll love aspects of it. If I know that it's going to be improved and stuff like that, then I'll just put it down and wait. I don't mind that. Um, so I don't think I fall into that trap of having to finish it straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do stupid. But you'd think stupidly like that, like I'd be more. intelligent with my money and not buy it day one, but that's the falling into that whole hype trap and hoping that things will be good.
Well, and it's like, I think that's something about like Game Pass or Blockbuster back in the day where I I don't mean I don't know how I'm trying to word this. Like I kind of prefer that experience in a lot of ways opposed to buying a game full price. And obviously, I understand, supporting developers, and that's the way we're going to continue to get games made, yada, yada, yada. But like, there is some lack of pressure that I feel whenever I boot up something on Game Pass, where it's
Mm.
like, I truly could care less about if this is good or not. Like, I have zero investment in this game being good, bad. Like, I'm totally indifferent to it. That's like, Flintlock coming up, a game that I don't really have a ton of interest in, if I'm being honest, but like it's on Game Pass. So sure. Kunitsugami, The Path of the Goddess. Sure. Dungeons of Hinterberg. Sure. These games that are coming up soon where it's like, why not? Is kind of my whole mindset. Um, and if I'll play them for 2 hours, and that's the thing too, where like I can play it for 2 hours and think this is good, but not compelling me to see it through to the end, and I'll bounce out. And I'm totally fine with that entire experience. And I I don't know. I do understand, of course, the investment of like, okay, I put my money down. I want to get my money's worth, but you're paying money. Blockbuster, you were paying money. Game Pass, you're paying, well, now it's like,
Yeah, they put the
over 20.
price up. I predicted it. It was beautiful. I saw it. I was like, yeah, I knew I was right. Adding Call of Duty, they're gonna up that price. I mean, they're
I
like talking about a new tier as well or something.
I almost hit you up whenever they raised the price, and I was like, dude, we might should make a video about this. And then we can do like a subscription service video down the road because I think you and I kind of have maybe different viewpoints on the sustainability of subscription services. So I think that'd be an interesting one to discuss later. But yeah, but do you feel that way with like a Game Pass or subscription services where you're like, dude, I could care less if this is good. The only thing I'm losing is time, and I was already going to play a game for this 2, 3 hour period. I really don't care what the game is. I'm looking for something. I'm going to jump onto this. If it's bad, so be it. I didn't lose anything other than a couple hours. Do you feel that way?
I think this might actually shock people. I don't actually interact with Game Pass all that much.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
So I'm obviously subbed because obviously I think I need it for like online play and talking to people and stuff. And there's obviously things in there that I dip into. But if I see like, for instance, what was it? It was Persona that entered Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
I just bought it because I knew I want to own it. Like if there's something in Game Pass, I will just buy it. And the things that are in there that are kind of like, yeah, I'll dip into them, and I probably would align with you of like I probably won't finish them. I will dip in for a couple hours and be like, yeah, that's okay, I guess, and then move on. But if there's something like a massive hitter, I'd rather just own it.
Yeah.
That's probably a bad mindset to have.
Well, I think that's kind of two part because we're both physical collectors. So there is, and I was even, I was looking at what was I looking at the other day? It might have been Flintlock actually, where because I go into GameStop and I know the manager and he, we kind of just sit there and shoot the breeze if nobody's in the store. And he has this like iPad thing and he'll just let me scroll through it and see all the games coming out that are getting physical releases. And there's actually, it's really cool to see that kind of,
Mm.
and I don't think it's like, oh, I, I don't think I would get him in trouble for saying this or anything, but like there's like Resistor is a indie game that's getting a physical release that I had no idea it was getting a physical release. Um, that Skies of Arcadia inspired title. I forget the name of it is getting a physical release. I had no idea it was getting physical. Like, so you start seeing games that you would have never thought were getting physical releases because of the size and
How,
scale of.
obviously, without giving a direct date, in case that would get him in trouble, but like, how far out are they roughly
Oh, it doesn't
ahead?
have the. It doesn't
Oh,
have
there's
the.
no date. Okay.
unless the game is like officially dated, it doesn't. It's just like images of
Okay.
games that are getting physical releases that you can pre-order. Um,
It's
and
kind of weird that it's not floating around then as like knowledge. You'd think that somebody would like compile that and give that as like information.
meaning, well, I mean, I don't know. This might be like publicly available. I have
Okay.
no idea. Like, it could just be the game. He might just be pulling up GameStop's website for all I know and scrolling through it. Like, I have no idea if this is just something that employees have, or he just pulls it up and I scroll through it, and then I can like make my pre-ordering decisions based off of that.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously, I'm only going to be pre-ordering games that are coming out fairly soon. But I don't know, maybe if you click on the images, you can actually see some of the release dates and stuff. I'll try that next time. But I just usually look, but I saw Flintlock on there. And
Mhm.
I didn't know that was getting a physical release because, smaller developer. I is that Focus Home publishing it? I'm not
I
100% sure
think
about that.
I think so.
But sometimes Focus Home does physical, sometimes they don't. But I was looking, I was like, damn, maybe I should pick this up. And I'm like, yeah, it's not a game I'm really dying to own. I'd be happy to play it on Game Pass. But I I was thinking, like back to my happiest days of gaming. I was playing a lot of games and not finishing them as a kid. Like you go into when you go into Blockbuster back in the day, you're going to finish the heavy hitters when you get those. You might rent them again the next week to finish it, like a Max Payne or a Devil May Cry or whatever, the God of War. Those games you're going to finish. Those are like narrative driven. You want to see it to the end, but there's so many weird, just off the like second sight or fucking like Narc. I don't know if you remember the PS2 Narc game. It was terrible, but I don't know. I didn't think it was terrible at the time, but it was like the Matrix. These weird license games, Jaws and Sopranos and Ghost Rider. Like you're just gonna pick them up for a couple hours, check them out, and you're totally happy with that experience.
Yeah.
Um, and you've talked a lot about how you'll dabble over, like you just said with Lords of the Fallen, you'll wait a while and just kind of dabble here a little bit, dabble there a little bit. So is that sort of your mentality when gaming, where it's like, I'm gonna play this until I want to play something else and I might come back to it later, I might not, and you just kind of free will.
Um, it's I guess that kind of leans into the completionist angle a little bit
Yeah,
because
we can go ahead and tie there.
if things come out broken, I'm not going to waste my time trying to get a completion if it's going to be bugged. Um, so I do tend to wait a little bit. Um, if I can finish the main game and I'm enjoying it, I will just stick through it, like, Elden Ring and stuff like that. Like, there are things that do grip me and hold me there from start to finish, and I don't play anything in between. But I won't lie, I do jump a lot. Like, I've tried to get better at it because I used to have, like, no lie, probably like 20 games going at one time of just dipping an hour, getting out, dipping an hour, and just constant. And that's not good. That kills your attention span big time because then it starts to set in tendencies of like, oh, it's been an hour, I need something else, and it was just like, yeah, I need to get better at that. So I've tried to cut that back big time. But so it's a wonder that I actually finish anything, to be honest, with that kind of mentality. But
So
go on, sorry.
So as a completionist, like I would imagine that massively impacts your decision to finish a game at all. Like, when you boot up a game, do you immediately go and look at like true achievements or look at yeah, and you're like,
Yeah.
if it's gonna be a slog, you don't.
No, I'm not. It's a little bit different in that you have some people that will look at lists. Like I do this every time. I won't lie. Get a new game, and that is the first thing I boot up is the list. I want to see if the main thing I'm looking for is it's going to dictate what difficulty I'm going to be playing on.
Hmm.
If there's no difficulty, cool, a breeze game. I can just kick back and relax. If it's got difficulties, then I have to like and ah like okay, well, what's like the range of that? So like an example, you've played it recently, Wolfenstein 2. There's no way I'm playing Mind Lieben.
Hell
I
no.
don't have the. I'm a patient person. I don't have the patience for that. That's
No.
like permadeath, hardest, like you're dying in one, two hits and stuff like that. Yeah. So like for something like that, it's different. But if it's like achievable, that's when I kind of like maybe. So like Death March in The Witcher and stuff like that, I did. Um, and that's why I look ahead because if I would have not looked at that and then found that I get halfway through the game and there's a difficulty that would really bug me and probably take me out of the enjoyment. I won't lie.
Yeah, dude, and not to go off on a tangent, Wolfenstein 2 is so hard. Even because I was just playing on the uh the don't hurt me mode or whatever, because there's like what like let me play daddy or whatever, and then
Yeah,
there's
the
like
the
the
with the pacifier in the hat.
yeah. And I was playing on the one above the absolute lowest one. And man, that final like section where they're just spawning nonstop, these big ol' ass tanks and these big ol' ass creatures and mechs or whatever you want to call it. Dude, I had to bump the div. I had to go journalist mode on that, on that last one and put the pacifier in. I couldn't get through it, man. Um, so, and I don't want to spin this off into a difficulty discussion because I think that's probably a good topic for a different video as well. But w- how do you feel whenever you see a game and it has no difficulty related achievements? Is that like a sigh of relief for you when you're like, okay, I can breeze
That
through
is a
some of
kick.
these?
Yeah, no, I think I've said this before. I will actively play it on the easiest difficulty because I'm having to do so much ball busting stuff in other games. It's like this is a vacation game to me then.
Yeah,
This is like I don't have to worry about that. Playing so many Souls likes and stuff like that where I'm constantly getting brutalized for hours and hours and hours. It's like, man, I can just kick back with this and just enjoy everything. And if it's like a complete breeze, then I'll bump it up a little bit for a bit of challenge. But
right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fun.
it's nice.
I played through Fable 2 recently, and I was like, I died, and then I bounced right back. And I'm like, have you played Fable 2?
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest thing in the world where it's like, so uh, I finished the game. I was like, and at the end, I was like waiting for you have died 65 times. You will not be the hero. Like nothing happens. You just die and then bounce back and get right into the fight. I was like, this is such a delight. This is the most chill game I've ever played in my life, man.
I think it had, I don't know if it was two, if it was one, two, or three, but it was the more you died, the more your body got scarred,
Yep,
I
scarred.
believe.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that was it. That was the only thing that it impacted was whether or not you were ugly in the end with
That's so
tons of
funny.
scarring and stuff like that.
So, on this completionist topic, before we hop out of this, I do wonder, do you will you put a game down if say the completionist run is super difficult, but you're really, really enjoying the story? Will you see the story through to its end and just be like, all right, I don't care about the trophies or achievements or whatever. I just want to see the story because
Ooh,
it's that good.
I'd have to give that like a good thought. I think the closest that that would come to would be um Pathfinder, and really, really wanting to 100% that, but then just being humbled. The unfair difficulty is just it's just too challenging for me. Like I can't. I would have to dedicate such an obscene amount of time to get to the level of good that that game wants me to be. And it was just like, okay, I accept that, and I'm just gonna play through and just And it's such a relief. I don't, you obviously don't have that completionist drive in the back of you. It's such a weight off your shoulders when you're like, okay, I concede, and then none of the other achievements matter to me. Then it's such a weird thing for me. When
Yeah.
I'm not going to be 100%ing it, I'm like, well, I don't care about any of them. Then. It's such a weird like on-off switch like that. It's so instant,
I
and
will
I can't explain it.
I will say, because I hit you earlier in the year and I was like, I'm gonna get to 50,000 gamer score. I gotta up my levels. And since I hit that mark, I have been totally like I this isn't a shot at like, completionists or achievement hunters, trophy hunters, but I've enjoyed gaming so much more in the past like, month or two since I've hit that mark, and I just I haven't looked at that stuff once when playing through a game. Like I'll have an achievement pop and I'll look and see like what did that pop for, but I don't look at the other ones to see, what I need to go and get her. And it's been such a it I I can totally understand how it becomes an addictive,
Mm.
but it also the grind of it where it's like, man, I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me to keep, because it's already like the completionist part is one thing, but then I I think you're definitely way more of a completionist than I am, but do you think maybe I am more of a like I got to see the story through guy than you are?
Um, I don't know. I've got my list here says that I've finished over 500 games
And
to story
you're
completion
in how long?
since I've tracked it.
Oh,
From
okay.
all 360, all Xbox One, all Series X,
That's
and
crazy.
PlayStation. So it's not like I put things down. I do see them through to the end on a
Right.
story side, and the percentage breakdown of that is 526 story completions, 114, 100%. So about one in five of things that I
Okay.
see to the end, I'm seeing to the end 100% of the way.
So
So
you,
about a fifth.
yeah, so you do play through games for the story a good bit just to see
Yep.
yeah, okay, okay. Um, I don't want to, if you don't have this pulled up, don't worry about it. Do you have it broke down by year or is it just numbered?
It's not by year, no. That's
Okay.
something I wish I would have done, but
Yeah.
it was, yeah, that's something that's just in an Apple Notes thing. It's just broken down between systems.
'Cause I'd be so curious to see how many games you finish this year. So I don't track the games I finish, and it's a weird thing. I wanted to make a video this year going over all the backlog games that I finished, like have at the halfway point of the year, which I guess would be right now. Um, and so I've been tracking every backlog game that I finished. And so far I'm at 18 backlog games completed for the year. I don't know why I didn't do the same thing for new releases. I assume it would be less than 18. Definitely it'd be less than 18. I don't even think I've played um 18 new releases this year. It's been a little bit of a lighter new release year for me. Um, but yeah, man, I need to do a better job of tracking that stuff, like to get a full total picture of the games I've finished. And that's the one thing about trophy hunting, achievement hunting, whatever, that's so nice is you have that list, man, and it's so easy to go back through it, be like, oh, okay, cool, I remember that, I finished that, add it to the list, and yeah, that is one really, really awesome thing about trophy hunting and achievement hunting. It's
Yeah.
so easy to chronicle
I
everything.
was hoping True Achievements would break it down, but they haven't. Um, they have some bits that they usually do. You have a monthly email they send you, everything
Hmm.
that you've done. So I'd have to go through each of them emails, which would obviously take too long. But they also do like a yearly one as
Mm.
well. So that's something I can touch on at the end of the year. But the only thing that it's told me is I've earned 1,062 achievements in 101 games. So I played 101 games so far this year. Not to
Yeah. Not to
not to
completion.
completion, yeah, just dipping in and out and stuff like that. So
So, I mean, I imagine that out of that 101, you've probably finished at least 30, 40.
yeah, probably.
somewhere in there. Yeah. So a lot of video games being finished, no doubt about that. And I guess that kind of ties into something else that I was thinking about that's kind of just a weird human element, human trait. And I think it ties into finishing games as well. It's like it, it feels like, and you can tell me if you feel differently. I feel like I need objective or purpose in almost every single thing I do in life. Where like I I don't know the last time I've like relaxed, like genuinely just relaxed. And
Just sat there and just stared into space.
yeah, right. Or like even, when I watch a movie or something, and you know this, because like I'll
Mm,
I'll hit you up and I'll be like, hey, let's do a Mad Max ranking. Hey, let's do a and we haven't got to any of that shit. And it's like, dude, calm down. Just watch the movie. Chill out. Eat the Sour Patch Kids. Drink a Coke. Calm the fuck down. And I notice it. This is a weird one. This is I once again, I don't know. Maybe I know I'm batshit crazy, but so the other day I was doing my cardio workout
mhm.
and I was trying to hit 30 minutes that day. And I got a phone call for work and I had to leave 23 minutes in. And I know this because I was listening to a podcast. So I was like, able to track it. It was exactly 23 minutes. I had 7 minutes left. And I was like disappointed when I go and I hop in the shower and I'm heading like I was kind of in a bad mood when I was heading to go do this job. And I when I like started preparing this list that this came to mind and I was like, why the hell wouldn't you look at it as, dude, you were out in the sun for 23 minutes, you got a workout in, you sweat out those toxins, got that endorphin buildup. Like it's all a positive thing. Why does the
It's
seven
because you
minutes
go
matter
you
that?
you put a goal down.
Yeah.
You subconsciously put that goal of 30 minutes. And because you didn't technically hit that 30 minute, it doesn't matter about how far you got into that. That was a goal that you set and you didn't accomplish it. So your body's like, and your mind is like, you kind of chalk that up as a failure.
Yeah.
So no, I get that. I get that entirely.
And it's like, do we feel that way about games too? When I put System Shock into my PS5 and I play it for 2 hours and I bounce out of it and then I kind of feel like a failure afterward. Like, do we feel that way? Does it
Yeah,
tie? Yeah, I think it does.
yeah, no, for real. Because the first thing that immediately springs to mind is I don't know if it's a one-to-one like perfect example, but Sekiro for me. I want to love it. I've tried so many damn times to try and see people's point of view. Game of the Year awards and all this, and it's just universally praised, and I just can't click with it. It's just I don't find it enjoyable. I boot it in for 2, 3 hours, and I'm trying to like see what it is that's so special. And to me, the whole time in the other half of my brain is screaming, it's not what you want, and it's just not enjoyable. And I put it down. And I've tried like 5 times to play that damn game. So yeah.
And it's so weird where we look at it as like a failure or incompletion or like
Mm,
when in reality, it's like, okay, you played Sekiro for however long you played it. You gained an experience from that. You learn more about yourself as a gamer where it's like, okay, games that look like Sekiro play not look like because the setting obviously is awesome. And I'm sure that that was one of the things that drew you to it.
mm,
But games that look like Sekiro from a mechanical standpoint, the speed or the over reliance on the one weapon strategy and not really being able to tinker with your build like you do in other Souls games. Like you're learning these things about yourself where it's like, okay, maybe I won't like a game like Stellar Blade, for instance, because it's similar to Sekiro in these ways. And it's not to say you're totally closing yourself off to anything similar to Sekiro, but you're learning about yourself. You're learning about Sekiro. You have
mm.
like new information that you can use in conversation. And it's like there's so many of these positive things that you're gaining, but you just didn't finish it. And it's like that's okay. There's still so many positive elements to the experience. It's like why can't we, harness that and appreciate
It
that element?
looms though. It looms over you. You feel like you've missed something. Because I did the
Yeah.
same for Armored Core, the new one. It got like universal praise and stuff booted up, and I was like, I really want to love you, man, but like I just can't click with you. I don't know what you want from me. Like I don't get it. And it was I I think I processed that a lot better than Sekiro because Sekiro I still feel a bit of guilt from not doing that. But
Yeah.
Armored Core, I kind of came to the realization I like mech games, but I don't like fast mech games.
Mm.
So I really enjoyed Mech Warrior 5, for instance, where it feels like you're in a tank. It's slow, it's methodical, and it's got weight and heft behind it. Whereas like the whole zooming around and jetpacking at the speed of sound, that's just not for me. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's I really do wonder where some of that comes from. And I guess it's just human nature to some extent. Like, and I think a lot of it, not to go on a hippy dippy rant here, but I think a lot of it kind of starts off young, like when you're put into sports or whatever the case. And it's like, the objective is to beat the other team. And, you play basketball or whatever, and say I shot 7 out of 10 from the free throw line and we lost by 2 points. It's like, well, damn. You kind of start looking at yourself as a failure because it's like, if I would have, well, I guess you'd still lose by one, but like if I would have shot 10 for 10, then well, no, we would have won by one if I shot. Yeah, so if I would have shot 10 for 10, we would have won the game. And you start looking at yourself as a failure when in reality you shot 70% from the free throw line. Like that's a great shooting percentage. And so many other elements are why you lost the game. And yeah, sure, your misses do count to that, but it's a whole package. And I don't know. It's an interesting just characteristic that I think we all have. And I know a lot of people are like they hate the idea of participation trophies, and I get it. I do think that that is kind of bad for culture to just award anyone for anything, but at the same time, like as a young kid, I do think there is, and I think it's one of the Gracie. Uh, I don't. I think it's like the oldest Gracie member. Jiu-jitsu masters. And there's this story that he would always reward his kids and the people in his program when they would lose. Like he would go out and he would buy them toys or buy them, we'll go out and eat some pizza, go out and get ice cream, whatever the case may be. And he wanted to show them that loss is a part of life. Like you're going to lose. You're going to not hit that objective, and you need to understand that that's okay. That's a part of all of this. And
yeah,
it's you don't really get that as much in like or at least I should say I didn't get that as a kid in organized sports. Like losing was like you're getting scolded, you're getting screamed at, like, and it's I don't think you I really I don't know. You maybe can build up character that way as well, but I think there is something about losing and being told like, yeah, it's okay, this happens.
yeah. I don't know. It's a strange mindset because I played a lot of like competitive games, and I never ever understood getting angry when you lose and stuff like that. It was the complete opposite. Like the group of friends that we had, like not to pat myself on the back, I 9 times out of 10, on top of that lobby when we were playing in Siege, I was the one doing a lot of the legwork, and then things would fall down the line. I would never get angry at them for choosing the wrong thing or dying or putting us in a bad spot. I don't know. It would always be me taking on that and kind of redirecting it as like, what could I have done better? If I could have done, and I'd reanalyze what I did. I wouldn't worry about what they did because I don't know. It's just the way I was kind of wired to do that kind of stuff. Like I'd never understood the whole getting angry and shouting at, if you're in a situation that doesn't help.
No.
Stay calm and just look at what you did and what could you have done better. And that's what helped us improve.
Yeah. And I think the best leaders are like that. The best leaders kind of put it on their back and they figure out how can I better the people around me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe there are some people who they take they take to that sort of criticism, that more direct kind of argumentative criticism, they take towards that confrontation more than they take towards pats on the back. And like I think as a leader, you start looking at each individual person and how they need to be led. But at the end of the day, I do like I don't think I gained much at all from playing sports early as a kid and being yelled at. You know what I mean? Like but once again, maybe I have a soft ass personality and I don't like
I don't
that.
think that's no, because I don't. If it's just shouting for the sake of shouting, like what does it accomplish? 'Cause that's what I
Yeah.
mean. When we was in them situations, in your deep core, yes, it's bloody annoying that we're not winning. You know, you're there to win. I get that, but like, what would have accomplished me then shouting at them and being angry? That doesn't
Yeah.
fix anything. That just, if anything, devolves the situation.
I tend to agree with you completely. I mean, but hey, I guess once again, everyone has a different personality trait where they take towards different forms of criticism differently.
Yep.
Um, there's something about checking a game off of a list, and you and I have talked about this briefly before, but the idea of finishing something and then taking that game out of the new game out of its case and putting it in the system, that is the most satisfying feeling in the world of gaming to me. You finished one and you're moving on to something new. I love it so much.
I love it, but I don't because I think I differ from you slightly. Like I've just 100% Elden Ring as an example.
You
If they
definitely
don't,
differ from me.
yeah, unless they put DLC for that game, I'm never touching it again, ever.
Wow.
Like that's for me in my part of my brain, that's ticked off 100%. That's done. That journey's done. Because I would rather, as much as I love it, if I get the itch to do a Souls-like, I don't know why it is, because you would think if that was the one that you enjoyed the most, you'd go back to it and revisit it and have fun. Whereas me, in the completionist side of things, it's I will then redirect to a different one now and start working on that journey because that journey's already done. Like, yeah, it's strange. It's I guess it's kind of like in the same way of some people they like in their sport in their field of sports and stuff like that. If they completely master it and then they just go and do something completely different because they've done everything they feel they can accomplish in that. There's nothing else that can be done. So you go into greener pastures kind of thing.
Yeah. You're pretty much Michael Jordan when he retired from basketball and went and played went and played
The
baseball.
best Elden Ring player ever? Nah, of course
Dude,
not.
I, I don't think people know this little lore tidbit, but this hat right here, this is actually the team Michael Jordan went and played for. It was in because I'm from Alabama.
All right.
It was a team in Alabama, the Birmingham Barons. That's the whole reason I got the hat. I don't know. I don't follow baseball at all. I just like, damn, that's so cool that when I learned about that, I was like, oh damn, I didn't even know Michael Jordan played baseball in Alabama. And it was like the kind of minor league team for the White Sox. But or I think so. I could be wrong about all this shit, but that's why I was sold the hat. Um, but no, yeah, I think that with the completionist angle, and also it's so crazy to me that Elden Ring the DLC didn't have achievements, did it?
No, and it's a very weird thing because Bloodborne did, and it's the only FromSoft game that received achievements.
Sony weren't having that shit.
Sony, it shows how important trophies are to Sony's bottom line. They know that their trophy players are big into it. So they know that this is going to sound crazy. I see this all the time on True Achievements. There were people who are saying they're not going to buy the Elden Ring DLC because it doesn't have achievements. There's people who are going to skip out on an experience that they love. It's their game of the year, but they're not going to touch it because there's no reward for what they want to get out of it. So Sony knows that that's a mindset, so they seriously tunneled in and was like, it has to have trophies.
I don't I, I kind of get that. I know it sounds weird because I'm not an achievement hunter or trophy hunter, but that kind of fucking blows. Like, if that's a big part of your gaming,
Yeah,
and like it's standard that every DLC and every, you know, 9 times out of 10, every single DLC is going to come packed, even with like just 200 gamer
yeah.
score or whatever. It's like, I, that's not a hard thing to implement. It's kind of like us with physical in a way, where it's like if you're Alan Wake or if you're a AAA publisher and your game isn't getting a physical release, we're not spending $70 on it.
Yep,
That's
we
something we
skipped
really
it.
prefer.
We skipped it entire. We didn't even play the game. We could have easily. There were several sales that went by, and we were just like, we're holding our guns. So I do respect that from them. But then you get that other side of you where it's the yin yang, and it's just like, wow, you're gonna really skip on this,
Yeah,
especially this, and that
right.
did shock me. But yeah, I obviously don't fall into that. I bought the DLC, I played it, I had fun. So it's not that big of a grip on my life, but I do empathize with them. I would have liked there to have been DLC achievements
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, because and I think once again back to the entire point here of checking something off a list is satisfying.
Yeah,
Rather it be, whenever I finish the game and I take it out of the system and I put a new one in, and that's kind of a mental check off the list, or literally a check off the list when you look back at your achievements and trophies. Like there's something really, really satisfying about checking a game off of a list. And or checking a checking a trophy list off of a list. And so yeah, I do actually understand that more than I thought I would ever understand that, but I do totally understand that perspective.
do you get decision paralysis after doing that then?
Ooh.
After I've done 100%, like with Elden Ring, for instance, I did sit there. It took me a day to like recoup and realign myself because it was something that you pour so much into. It requires so much patience and attention that once I was done with it, I was like, that that required so much of me. You kind of feel
Yeah.
like I'm a minor void for a period of time where it's like, wow, that's like a huge weight off my shoulders, but like, what am I going to do now? Like, because I know nothing is going to interact with me on that level because they are the best at what they do in that genre. So even if I picked up another Souls, like it would probably hinder that experience.
Oh yeah.
So I actually ended up completely stopping gaming for like the day and went and read a book instead because I couldn't choose. I couldn't choose and move on from it.
Well, so I finished Red Dead 1, and then I immediately moved on to something that was like a walking sim. I finished GTA 5, and I immediately moved on to like Life is Strange. And
Yeah, there's a pattern here.
yeah, so whenever I finish big, chunky, real deal time sink games, or even, like if I play a hard game and finish a hard game, I'll move on to like a Telltale game or whatever the case may be. Like I really like to go when I complete something that feels substantial. I really want, and not to say Life is Strange didn't, it did, but like I like to go to something that's much more chill. Like a Tony Hawk, just boot up Tony Hawk for a little bit, or boot up a sports game for a little bit. Because I that recoup period after finishing something like an Elden Ring or a Grand Theft Auto or a Red Dead or whatever, I think that it actively hurts other games when you play. Like if I would have played Grand Theft Auto 5 and then played the Saboteur,
Yeah,
which I played the Saboteur before Grand Theft Auto 5, perfect order. If it would have been reversed, that would have hindered my experience with the Saboteur greatly. You know what I mean? Because like nothing is going to compare to a Rockstar open world.
because it's so fresh, your brain is even if you're not focusing on it, it's drawing comparisons
Right.
constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I have that exact same thing. And I think once again, not to tie back 100 times to this, but that's the one thing I love about Game Pass so much is like it just, and I don't mean to say this is going to sound negative, but like it just doesn't matter to me. Like I don't care at all if I don't like an experience. So after GTA 5, I'll boot up this. If I don't like it, I'm out. After Red Dead, I'll boot up something else if I don't like it. Like there's really no commitment there. And I feel that way about backlog games as well, or games that I bought on sale, where I'll pop it in after a big game, and then like if I don't like it, cool, I'm out. Like the Technomancer or Mars Warlogs, the two Spiders games I was playing recently. I thought both were fine, but like I don't want to finish them, and it's like I bought them
Oh,
for
poor
cheap.
spiders. It's good that you've touched on the backlog because I did want to touch on that as well as like a point. Do you do you have in the back of your mind like I need to like chip away at this like a certain amount each month? Do you have that drive? And when time passes and you're not making any progress on that, but you're adding to it, does that make you feel kind of shitty?
Dude, we need to do this. I'm gonna write this down. We need to do that as a full topic. Just a full backlog topic. Like how do we approach the backlog? That's actually a damn good idea. But to answer your question, I am getting to the point. Okay, so how to word this? I tier my backlog games in my mind. And
Okay.
not like I don't have a list or anything. I've played almost all the S tier, like games I have to get to before I die. I've played almost all of those. Yakuza, that's one franchise where it's like that's still looming and I definitely want to get to that. Um, I don't really have at this point, I don't really have a backlog in the same sense of what I did 5 years ago.
Okay.
I still have a backlog. Obviously, it's massive and there's hundreds of
Yeah.
games.
You've not conquered it.
Yeah, and I never
Yeah.
will, and I'm aware of that. But like, if I'd never touched my backlog again, I wouldn't be too bummed out. Like, I want to play through Gears 5. I'm on Gears 4. I want to play through Gears 5. I want to finish off the Wolfenstein series. I want to play Fable 3. I want to play Near Automata. Like there's games I want to play, but even if I'm being totally real, like if I never got around to those, Yakuza is different. I have to play through that series. But those other games that I just mentioned there, like if I didn't play Gears 5, I'd be okay. If I didn't play the other Wolfenstein games that I've heard are lesser quality than 1 and 2, I would be okay. If I didn't get to finish Life is Strange, I'd be okay. But I'd like to finish all those games. But they're not S tier. They're not, like Uncharted was a series that I had on my
Yeah.
backlog for years. Uh, yeah, there's I could look around at the collection, but there were games like Jade Empire and some other like Dragon Age even. Those were S tier. I have to play through these games.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
How do you feel about
Because
it?
I I think it's just the inner hype that I have trouble like containing because I have if I was to be really, really strict, I'm probably in the same boat as you. There's probably not all that many like I have to play these S tiers. But I get, that whole excitement building up like when you feel something and you're like, oh man. So it's just never ending for me. It comes and goes in like waves for sure. And the thing that I was also thinking about is how to put this, like not to be too morbid. I think we're really lucky in the age that we live in because a huge portion of the early video games, I'm sorry, they were just bad. Like Pong and stuff like that,
Of
all the way up
course.
and stuff. So you can kind of ignore that portion of video game history. Like you can respect that it's there, but you don't have to physically experience it yourself. And then you have like I'd say like the early 90s all the way up to like now and stuff like that. How crappy is it going to feel for some people who are 100 years from now
Oh
from
my
us? Because we
God.
we we can't finish everything ourselves right this second. right now it's impossible to finish every single thing that we want to finish.
Of
How
course.
shitty is it going to feel for them? Like, you're talking about decision paralysis. They're going to have all of the stuff we had and more. Like, that's crazy to think about.
Well, I mean, think about a kid who was just born this year.
Yeah,
You're
it's
talking
just
about,
constant because it's like books. They've existed much longer than video games. You can't read every book you want to read.
yeah.
It's impossible. If you started from the moment you popped out, from the moment you drew your last breath, even then, it's impossible. So, like, that's crazy to me.
Well, and like if you were born in 2024 this year, and then you say, okay, you at 2034, that'll be the age where most people really start their gaming journey, like full stop, 10 years old. At that point, we will be okay, so the new consoles will come out in 2028, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So you'll
It'll be like
still probably,
halfway through the generation of the new consoles,
yeah.
roughly.
So you'll be playing PlayStation 6. You'll still have PS5, PS4. And but here's the good thing though. I will say I you'll have PS6, PS5, PS4, and I would say PS3 would be the last one because and I know this is gonna people are gonna be like, what? But I do genuinely think that like how we look back at older games, because we're obviously younger than uh people who were born in 1984, right? So we're 10 years younger than them. They look back at a lot of those classic games with rose-tinted glasses, like the same way we look back at PS2 and PS1. Like someone born in 2024, there's really not much on the PlayStation 1 that they're ever going to be able to go back and play. If we're being real.
That's interesting. I would love to I would love to like ask somebody that when we get around to that. Because I think I vary a little bit differently. I think it's not like Zork and stuff like that, where it's like, man, this is rough to play. Like, I don't, it's definitely had to be in the mode, like the original Microsoft Flight Sims and stuff like that. Like, they are clunky as hell. I think PlayStation 1 and stuff like they're clunky, but they're still, you can play them. Like,
We can play them.
that's what I mean. And that's just, I guess that's us with my wired mind because it's like I don't even want to play Resident Evil 1
Exactly.
in its state, but I can at least I could play it and get enjoyment out of it. I don't think I could play any 80s games and get really any enjoyment out of it personally. Not even like the adventure games, like they don't do anything for me.
Yeah. Now we got it. Yeah. This is something we absolutely have to come back to. This is a super fascinating topic. Um, Make sure I don't forget that one. That's really, really good. How we approach the backlog and just sort of, yeah. Anywho, um, I want to close off with this because we talked about it earlier, story versus gameplay and
Mhm.
how that impacts your decision to finish a game. Are you somebody who, if the if you're playing a game and the gameplay is super, super, super strong, but the story's dog shit, will you still just be like, yeah, well, I'm gonna play through it because the gameplay is so, so good?
Do you have an example
I
of a
actually
game
got
for
a
you personally?
I got a
I'm
bunch here.
struggling.
Yeah.
Just try and
So
boot the memory.
so I'll just put it this way. If uh, if the gameplay is really, really good, but I don't care about the story, I usually never finish those games because I'm like, well, cool. I've already experienced the best part of the game, which is the gameplay. I have an understanding of what the game is, and so I'm happy with it. So like Mad Max, the Avalanche game.
Mm.
The gameplay is excellent. The story I couldn't care less about.
Really?
Yeah, I was not into it at all.
Dude, you liked the Mad Max movies. It was a perfect iteration of it, I thought, personally.
Yeah, it was
Man, that's
just
crazy.
to me there were so many long periods of time where nothing was happening narratively, and it was hard for me to stay invested. But I there are cool parts of the story, no doubt. But to even more extreme point, Tears of the Kingdom. I
Mm.
thought Tears of the Kingdom last year had the best gameplay of anything I played, but I wasn't going to finish that. That there was nothing happening narratively that was even mildly compelling to me. Sandland earlier this year, I thought the gameplay was really fun, kind of Mad Maxy with the
Yeah.
gameplay, but I just didn't care about the story. Doom 2016, Tales of Arise, like the games that I really enjoyed the gameplay, but I just didn't like the story.
No, I'd have to be. I don't even think I'm the opposite of that. I I think I just finish things.
Yeah.
Um, because something that springs to mind, I think it was last year I did Lord of the Rings War in the North. I didn't enjoy it all that much. The story was meh, and the gameplay was meh. But it was the fact that it was just a Lord of the Rings game that carried it. I was just like, okay, I'm kind of in the itch for that, so I'll see it through to the end. So, because I play a lot of like roguelikes and stuff to completion, like Binding of Isaac, I've put like over 1,000 hours in that game to get the 100%. There's there's story there, like there's endings and stuff, but yeah, the gameplay is what carries it. So, and then there's the other side of things where the gameplay is woeful to the story. Like I as long as it has something, I'll usually finish it. But it could be something as small, like I said, with the Lord of the Rings game, the fact that it just has that name. As long as it's not abhorrently bad, like that Golem game was, I'll probably end up at least doing a story clue. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you power through stuff at a more consistent clip than I do. I think,
Because the things you listed baffle me, I won't lie. Like not
yeah,
finishing like Tales of Arise, not finishing Mad Max. I've not played Sandland, but like them, it's like man, they're like really good. And if you're enjoying like the gameplay or the story, even, it's just weird to not want to just see it full circle because it should just be a good time.
but that's the thing. So actually, let's go to the other one for because I got examples on both. So this
Yep.
is a list of bad gameplay I didn't like, but I liked the story and ended up finishing. So Oxenfree 1, Dragon Age 1 and 2, Atomic Heart, Norco, the A Plague Tale Innocence, if I'm being honest, not the world's greatest gameplay. Immortality. Like these are games that I didn't really like the gameplay whatsoever, but the story was so good that I'll see it through. And so that's the big distinction for me where if I'll like Mad Max, I have nothing but praise for that game. I really enjoyed the gameplay. Same with Sandland, Tears of the Kingdom. Like I don't have really anything bad to say other than I didn't like the story. The gameplay was so fun, but I'll put those games down because I'm not digging the story. Whereas with really narrative driven, super strong stories, I'll finish them despite how bad the gameplay is. It's a weird
Mm.
thing. I don't know. Maybe it's because, once again, I talked about this earlier, where it's like, I feel like I've already gotten the experience. Where it's like, if the gameplay isn't evolving drastically and I can't see this massive evolution happening mechanically, then I'm like, okay, cool. I understand what's going to happen there. Whereas if the narrative is really strong, I know something new is gonna take place.
How important is immersion for you? And I say that because you say that for many games you'll like skip over like side content stuff, um, and solely focus primarily on main story. There may be dipping in like side stuff, but you don't interact with it as much as say like I probably would.
So
Where it's like if I'm enjoying the like for instance you said about the Technomancer and stuff. Look, it's not like a 10 out of 10 game, but I won't lie, I was invested in the world. Like I enjoyed the setting, I enjoyed the characters for what they were, and I'm just able to just accept that that's the standard that they've set, and I'm okay with that. So I did a lot of the side stuff and dipping in and doing all that and talking to characters and seeing what was going on in the world because it was like, okay, I'm okay with this, sure, and stuff like that.
Well, Technomancer is a funny example because out of the 10 hours I played of it, I probably mostly did side stuff because I actually enjoy. So that's sort of my rule is I'll do early on in the game, I'll do side quests and I'll see what you're offering.
Yeah.
And then I'll make my assessment off of that. Where Final Fantasy 16, I always bring this up. I hate to throw shade at it. I love the main story. I hated those side quests. So I did the first few and I was like, I'm not touching a single one of these for the rest of the game. Like they were just so bad early on. And I heard they get way better towards the end, but I was like, no, man, you set the bar for me to expect this level of quality from your side content. So I'm out. There's only so many hours in a lifetime. Like I'm
Yeah.
not doing that.
This
But then
Final Fantasy falls into that trap a lot because that was the thing they used to defend 13 is that the opening 12 hours of the game is bad and it only gets better from there. And it's like 12 hours of badness, guys. You can't, that's crazy
that's two
to
Gears of War
expect.
games.
Exact, that's a lot to try and like have the player put up with. Like that's madness.
Yeah. And so like Mass Effect Andromeda is a good example of a game where I I dove into that side content because it's so good. And then the main story is so average. And it's like, so I will almost always, unless I'm just pressed for time, but I will almost always dive into side quests to see what you're offering up. And if you're not offering up something that feels substantial, I'm like, okay, I see the bar you've set for yourself. I'm good.
Okay. You did Rebirth as well, right, this year?
Yep. That was another one where
Do mini
I
games add anything, just out of curiosity? Because they had a lot of them.
I
Or do you
loved
not
them.
care?
I loved them so much. The mini games were so damn fun to me. That's one where I really like. There was a part where I was like, okay, I gotta quit this. I gotta quit playing these mini games.
Yeah.
Like I was playing with what's his name? Red Nine, the dog. That's it, right? Red Nine, or is that the gun in Resident Evil 4? Uh,
Red 13,
whatever the red. Yeah,
whatever he was.
yeah,
I think he's
the
13 than the name of the dog, I think. I don't know. Haven't played it. They won't
yeah.
let me play it.
But I was playing some soccer game with him, and I
Mm.
was just so addicted to that shit. Just the mini games in general are so fun in Final Fantasy VII, and that's the thing where I'll get totally sucked into that stuff. But yeah, I would say on average, I think a lot of games have bad side content, and so I avoid it whenever I notice that for sure.
Do you prefer the side content in the traditional sense of like questing or the mini games? If
Mini
you could
games.
like, dude, I'm the exact same way, and it seems so rare. Like a lot of people were kind of they really weren't all that interested in Rebirth for all the mini games and stuff. They felt like there was too many and stuff like that, and it's just it takes out the experience and maybe a little bit, yeah, to an extent, but I don't know. Like I always just have so much enjoy like going through The Witcher and like the highlight of that is Gwent for me. Like it's so enjoyable, like mini games and stuff like that, or go even like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, just playing Orlog. It's just like a dice game, and I'm just having fun doing it. It's crazy. I'd rather do that than do your fetch quest.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because to me, you when you talk about immersion, I actually get more immersed in a world where I feel like an active participant in it in the sense of like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Okay, it's not mini games, but I'm going to the gym, I'm lifting
Mm,
weights, I'm going to the shooting range, I'm upgrading my abilities by actually participating in your game world. Going to get food, it's reflecting CJ. Like I that is so immersive to me to where I'll actually, even though it's not side quests, that will be like I'll try to complete days as CJ and almost sort of role play in this
yeah.
immersive way that you know, or in like Judgment or whatever. I'll go to the batting cages. I'll go play arcade games. Um, yeah, man, I love. and it doesn't have to be necessarily mini games. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be tennis in Grand Theft Auto 5, although I love that as well, or the triathlon races or whatever. But like just immersive ways to exist in this world without the tedium of like go pick 7 flowers.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely prefer that as well myself. Like I said, I'd rather do 100 batting cages than pick flowers. It's always the sigh when that pops up on your screen and you're like, ugh, really? You couldn't like think of any other creative way to get me to achieve a goal than do the generic tried and true pick 7 flowers. Like, come on, man.
Well, and it's also that mini games are allowing you to play the game differently. You know,
Mhm.
if you got a 40-hour game on your hands of Grand Theft Auto where you're driving and shooting and cover shooting and flying and like, well, to be fair, there's a lot of variety, but like the or like a Final Fantasy is a better example where it's you're going to be swinging your sword for 40 hours and then getting cutscenes. Like that's the game, man. You know, and games by nature are repetitive and there's nothing wrong with that. But like whenever I get to go off and do those motorcycle battles or the shooting gallery or playing the soccer game or riding the dolphin or like whatever the case, you know, like that's giving me variety from a game that, if we're being honest, there's not a lot of variety there with like the core gameplay. The core gameplay
If
doesn't
it was just
change.
story and gameplay, it would be very, very bland.
Yeah. And I don't even know necessarily if it'd be really bland to me. I would still enjoy it because like Final Fantasy VII Remake is kind of in that. Yeah, you have like the squat challenges in the gyms and like the honeybee inn, like you have those sections, but it's a lot less. There's a lot less variety in Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I still love it. Um, most games are pretty repetitive by nature, and I think that's why we appreciate mini games so much.
Hmm. Yeah, because it shifts up the normality and the expectation of like getting into a groove, and then it can kind of curveball, and you'd be like, oh, an actual challenge. Because if you're running the motions, you're not being challenged because you've accomplished what they want you to accomplish, and it's just doing the same thing. So yeah.
Totally. Well, man, that's all I had on my list. I think that was a damn good discussion there. Where we thought it was going to be 30 minutes, ends up being over an hour. That's how we roll here. We ramble.
Yep,
But
of
do you
course.
have anything else you wanted to knock off your list or
Um, no, I like, nah, I think I'm good. I think we did all the things. We've even identified some new things to touch on in the future, which is always good.
oh yeah, that backlog topic, that's definitely going to come. And also, my people, uh so here are the plans for what we're playing because I know it if I'm being totally honest, just what we're playing, like that's not going to do great numbers. And not that I give a shit about numbers that much, but
We're on the grind. We want them sponsorships. Come on.
I would like as many people to tune in as possible who would be interested in that sort of stuff. And it is kind of a bummer to me that like, people don't really love hearing just a good old deep dive into games being played. And I don't think it's that. I think it's just more the idea of you gotta, as a smaller channel, you gotta create compelling, clickable, ways to get people to engage with the content, not clickbait. But so we were trying to think of ways to, since we're doing more of a topic focused and less of a podcast, even though this is pretty much a damn podcast, since we're doing more topic focused discussions, how to make the what we're playing fit into that mold. And I think some of you will remember that I did a ranking series back in the day where each month I would rank all the games that I had played for that month. The problem with me doing that by myself is that some months you only play 2, 3 games, and it's like, I'm not going to rank 2 or 3 games. But if Loon also plays 2 or 3 games, then we got, 5, 6 games to rank. Um, so, and usually I think both of us play. 5, 6 games individually. So then you're talking about 10 to 12 games to rank. And it's just having two people rank the games they've played, I think is a much better strategy. And also, I think it'll be a little bit quicker, a little bit snappier, not having to spend, 20, 30 minutes talking about what we're playing. Um, yeah. And then just have a
And it,
good,
it allows us to bounce off. Like if you dived into a backlog game I've finished, it's interesting topic discussions and vice versa.
yeah. And it's also like we're gamifying what we're playing, is really all we're doing. Is adding a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a game element that I think is more engaging for the audience than because I do understand, like, at times I don't want to really just sit and listen to somebody talk about a game for an hour unless it's something I'm really, really passionate about. But to see people rank games for an hour and they got 10 games that they're ranking over the course of that hour, sure. So, um, yeah, man. But that's sort of the idea. Hope y'all are all good with that. So that'll be happening once a month. I also have another idea for some content one that I let me make sure that I can pull that off, but I don't want to announce anything too early. But definitely once a month, Loon and I will be getting together to do our rankings. And yeah, so look forward to that at the end of July. July will be huge it'll be the biggest for sure because we're also going to incorporate June since we really
Yeah,
didn't get to discuss much anything throughout June because I was dying. Um,
you
but
conquered it. There you
hey,
go.
we're
There's an
on
achievement. Now
we
you're in a
are
completionist.
absolutely, yeah. We are on the other side of that, hopefully. But yeah, Luna, I appreciate you for joining me here today. And I shall see you pretty soon to do some rankings, man.
Yep, sounds good, man.
Appreciate you guys for tuning in. And also maybe we'll even do that backlog discussion before then if we can
Mm.
find some time. So we shall see you very, very soon. And we also got two videos that we recorded before shit hit the fan. Um Oh shit. One is what would make us quit gaming, like if we would ever quit gaming, what would make us quit? And then the other was our draft update, right? Where we drafted a bunch of developers and then
Mm.
we tasked them with what games we would like to see them create. That's actually one of my favorite videos we've ever done. Um and I edited the shit out of that one too, so I definitely want to get that out. So
Firework explosions everywhere.
well, I guess I should set the expectations correctly. For me, editing the shit out of a video means more than just usually what I do is put one video up and it rolls for the full 2 hour conversation. This I actually put multiple, like for each game we talked about, I think I have gameplay of like, for each of the developers. So it's not all that complicated if I'm being fair, but for me it's a little bit complicated with my
No, you do a
non
really good job. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. But yeah, that it's probably funny timing after people just watch through this video and it's just going to be one square at the bottom as we talk for the last hour and 15 minutes or whatever. One square at the bottom that's just one video rolling the whole time. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in and we shall see you very, very soon. Goodbye.
Later.